So there's this thing that happens when you get a bit older. Maybe it's subtle at first, or maybe you don't notice until one day it hits you. Every room you go into suddenly seems to have a chair that's yours. Not literally yours, of course, but somehow it's the one you gravitate to. You walk into the living room, and there it is. The cushions are slightly too soft, the angle of the backrest just right. You settle in, and immediately everything else feels wrong. The sofa too wide, the other chair too upright. Somehow this chair gets you, then the kitchen, same thing. There's a seat that calls to you, maybe by the window or near the radiator. You don't choose it consciously. You just end up there, day after day. It's like the universe quietly assigned it to you, and you're too polite to say no. The funny part is, no one else notices. Friends sit down, shrug, shuffle uncomfortably, but the chair remains your chair. You try sitting somewhere else just for a change. It's okay for a minute or two, but eventually you're back in the chair that fits your body, your rhythm, your slightly creaky knees. And the real kicker, you start noticing it everywhere. When you visit your parents, the same chair phenomenon exists. Hotels, pubs, even friends' houses. There's always one chair that somehow makes sense. It's not a big deal, but somehow it's comforting, familiar, like a little anchor in a world that's otherwise constantly changing. So next time you settle into a chair and sigh without really thinking about it, know this: you've officially discovered one of middle age's most understated joys. Your chair has chosen you, and really, that's not too bad at all. There's a very particular kind of satisfaction that arrives quietly as you get older, and it's the moment you realize you know exactly which route through town avoids chaos. Not the fastest route on paper, not the one the sat-nav insists on, but the one that simply works. You don't announce it. You don't feel the need to explain it. You just turn left where everyone else goes right, ease down a side street, glide past a row of parked cars, and suddenly the world feels calmer. The lights are kinder here. The traffic moves differently. You've slipped through the gaps without anyone noticing. What's funny is how instinctive it becomes. You don't really think about it anymore. Your hands just turn the wheel, your feet adjust automatically, and somewhere deep down there's a quiet confidence that says, this way. You've learned this route over years, through roadworks, school runs, temporary closures, and one disastrous diversion you still haven't forgiven. And every now and then you catch a glimpse of the main road you've avoided. Cars stacked nose to tail, indicators flashing in frustration, people gripping their steering wheels like it's a competitive sport. You feel a small, private triumph, not smugness, just relief, a gentle sense that you've made the right choice. It's not about speed anymore. It's about flow, about choosing the path that keeps your shoulders relaxed and your breathing steady, knowing where the bottlenecks are and quietly stepping around them. And maybe that's one of the underrated perks of getting older. Not knowing everything, but knowing enough to move through the world with a little less friction, one calm side street at a time. There's a quiet satisfaction that comes from looking up at the sky and knowing what's about to happen. Not checking an app, not asking anyone, just glancing upward and thinking, yes, that's rain later. It's not dramatic knowledge. You're not forecasting storms or issuing warnings. It's more subtle than that. The colour of the clouds, the way the light looks a bit tired, the stillness that creeps in before the air changes its mind. You don't announce it loudly, you just mention it casually, almost as an aside, and when it happens, that's the moment, the rain arrives exactly when you expected it to, or the sun holds on just long enough to prove you right. You don't celebrate, you don't even smile much, but inside there's a small contained thrill. A quiet yes. What makes it better is that no one really notices. They'll say something like, "Oh, it's turned, hasn't it?" And you'll nod as if this was all inevitable. You don't mention that you knew half an hour ago purely from the way the sky looked. That knowledge is for you. At some point, this becomes part of your identity. You start trusting the sky more than the forecast. You'll glance outside before leaving the house. Adjust a coat, choose shoes accordingly. It feels sensible, earned, almost wise. And when you do get it wrong, which does happen, you don't mind too much, because the act of looking up, of paying attention, feels grounding in itself. You're part of the day, not just reacting to it. So next time you step outside, pause for a moment, look at the clouds, the light, the way the air feels. If you get it right, enjoy the quiet satisfaction, and if you don't, well, at least you notice the sky, and that, somehow, feels like a win too. You're listening to adulting without urgency, nothing to focus on, nothing to fix, just some quiet thoughts in the background. You know, at some point in life, comfort stops being optional. It stops being nice to have and becomes non-negotiable. Shoes that pinch, gone. Jackets that restrict movement, gone. Socks that make your toes question their existence, gone. You start picking things, not because they look good, but because they feel right. And here's the fun part, you start defending it. You walk into a shop with a new jacket in your hand, and someone gives you that look, the one that silently says, "That's not very stylish." And you just smile because, in your head, it's perfect. Perfect for bending, stretching, sitting, reaching for tea without complaining. Perfect for living style. That's negotiable comfort. That's sacred. You even find yourself giving little speeches to friends, sometimes out loud, sometimes just in your own head. I'd rather enjoy my evening than strangle myself in skinny jeans. And strangely, people stop arguing after a while. They see the calm in your movements, the lack of wincing, the quiet satisfaction. You've won without trying, simply by choosing to exist comfortably. And the best part, it's contagious. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, your friends start noticing. They begin to respect the chair you pick, the shoes you wear, the scarf you wrap around your neck. Comfort has a kind of understated authority. So next time someone questions your choices, the relaxed shoes, the soft jumper, the perfectly sagging sofa spot, just smile and let them watch. Because you're not just choosing comfort, you're mastering it. And frankly, that's a victory worth celebrating quietly every single day. It's funny how memory works as you get older. Names gone, completely gone. You'll meet someone new, shake their hand, and somewhere inside your brain, the words have evaporated, but the utterly irrelevant details. Oh, those are crystal clear, like the exact shade of the curtains in their living room 10 years ago. Or the fact that they once wore mismatched socks to a Christmas party. You don't need that information, it serves no purpose, but it's somehow impossible to forget. And the more you try to remember a name, the more it slips away. So there you are, smiling, politely calling someone mate or friend, all the while rehearsing the tiny, unnecessary facts that your brain has filed away forever. You'll remember the story of their cat, the brand of coffee they bought once, or the exact time they tripped on the pavement. But their name, poof, vanished. The strange part is, it almost becomes a superpower. You can recall all these odd, seemingly useless details that make conversations feel familiar and personal. You can tell someone, "I remember the scarf you wore on that snowy day in 2012, and they're stunned even if you can't remember their name. And you realize maybe names aren't that important anyway. What matters is the tiny mosaic of moments, the quirks and little stories, the bits that stick and linger. Those are the things that make someone memorable, and somehow that feels more satisfying than remembering a simple name ever could." Do you catch yourself overthinking the simplest things? You start out with something tiny, choosing a sandwich, replying to a message, deciding whether to leave the house now or in 5 minutes. And before you know it, you're deep in analysis, weighing options that don't really exist. You stand there genuinely considering all the possible outcomes, as if the future depends on whether you choose white bread or brown. And at some point, you catch yourself. There's a brief pause, a moment of clarity, and you realize you've spent far longer thinking about the thing than it would have taken to just do it. That's usually when the laugh arrives. Not a big laugh, more of a quiet, private one. The kind that says, "Ah, I see what's happening here." You're not annoyed, you're not frustrated. You're just mildly amused by your own mind, wandering off with confidence and absolutely no sense of proportion. And the nice thing is, once you notice it, the spell breaks, the decision becomes easy again. You choose something, anything, and the world continues exactly as it did before. Nothing collapses, no one complains, the moment passes. So when you catch yourself overthinking the small stuff, it's worth smiling at it, because that little laugh isn't giving up, it's understanding. And sometimes that's all you really need to move on, quietly and comfortably, with the day unfolding just fine.